Hello and welcome to our programme on Windrush 2020. Okay, so welcome to our panel discussion on Windrush 2020. Thank you so much, guys, for agreeing to come along today. You know, last year we happened to celebrate and commemorate our Windrush Day with our elders by having a meal and able to sit down and get together. But this year, you know, the situation is slightly different. So what we're trying to do is to kind of talk to members of the community to find out about what has Windrush meant for them and their experience of Windrush. So first of all, I'd like you to introduce yourselves and tell us your name and where you're from and a bit about you, please.
Okay. I'll start. Thank you for inviting us to take part in this. It's a pleasure and honour to do this. My name is Donovan Mason, and I'm more commonly, I would say, known as Terry, with my family and within the community. I'm a Jamaican. I came to the UK in 1967 as a child, so I'm not officially part of that Windrush generation or as part directly of the Windrush experience, which started in the late 50s. However, my father he came here in 1959, and I remained in Jamaica, lived with my grandmother, his mother, and my mother also in Jamaica. And he came here to set up a life and to build a life for himself and to create opportunities for himself, like many other Jamaicans did at the time. So, typical situation really was that I came to join him in 1967 once he had set himself up and got a house and was established in a job and so on. So my early experiences of being in the UK, well, I would say initially it was, coming to England away from my home, what I certainly regarded as my home, and a loving, caring home with my grandmother in Jamaica. It was quite a traumatic experience, I have to say, as a child. But in time, you got used to it. You adjusted. I went to school in Windsor. When I came, I went straight into the first year of the secondary school. At that time, my cohort would have already taken the 11 plus exam, so I didn't actually get the opportunity to do that. But I went to school in Windsor, which was, in many respects, a good school. So that is a part of my introduction to the UK.
Thank you. Now over to you.
Okay, good morning, and thanks for asking us as well. My name is Marjorie Mason. I'm married to Donovan, and I'm otherwise known as Donna to my friends and family and within the community. I don't have any experience of Windrush. I can't say I remember my mom telling me anything about it, and I'm not really sure what year she came here, but I do remember some of the things that she said. That she lived in Yorkshire when she came to England. She went to Yorkshire, and I do remember the thing she says about the winters being very cold and hanging out the clothes on the line, and it's been stiff. And and she used to say to me that when it was so cold, if you sort of box your nose, like sort of hit your nose, it would fall off and things like that. So I had these kind of like visions of England when I was back home in Jamaica. And also when I came to England, I was quite shocked. I came in February 1975, and I was 17 then, and I was still at school. And when I came here, I was told that I couldn't go to school because I finished school at 16. So that was a bit of a shock to me, because in Jamaica, I wouldn't have finished my education then. And so I then proceed to go to college, Windsor College, and that's where I met Donovan, and he was like one of the only other Jamaican apart from myself there. So of course we got, became friendly. There were other Caribbean students there, and we're all friends up to this day. So that was a good experience. One of the things I noticed that when I came to England, I think it was because I came in February, it was really cold and it was snowing and it was March. And I remember snow on the ground and all that sort of thing. And I remember saying to my mum, I thought winter finished in December. The reason being is that we always used to get Christmas cards, and the Christmas cards always had snow and everything on there. And so I just assumed that winter snow finished in December. So it was a bit of a shock to me to see snow in April and things like that. Yeah, so it was a rude awakening. My other experience I had is when I didn't have any problem getting a job once I finished college. And I walked into a trainee accountancy job. And I do remember my boss saying to me when he was speaking to me, and after my interview, he said to me, by the way, where did you learn to speak English? Because he knew that I'd only just arrived in the country. That was a bit of a shock to me. And I said, I have you know that English is our first language in Jamaica. And yeah, that's where I learned my English from I was at school. So he was quite surprised at that as well. So there's a lot of ignorance. I noticed that within the community and within the nation as a whole. And I know I'm jumping ahead a bit, but one of the questions that I would like to ask is, have they got any intention of teaching our history, the history back from slavery days to now, and to speak about the Caribbean islands in a positive way, to teach, introduce the students to the Caribbean islands, and so that they know, and it's not just somewhere that they go on holiday. Because recently, last week, my boss asked me, what do you produce in Jamaica? What do you do in Jamaica?
Isn't that sad?
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that sad?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so there is, up until this day, even though there's enough of us here, enough of people from the Caribbean here, and mixing and everything like that, mixing within their community, even marrying into their community, having children with the community, and so on, they still don't know, they still don't understand. So that is, that needs to be resolved.
Okay, thank you for that information. That's so true. Over to you.
Yes, I mean, I sort of, with what I said earlier, got up to the point of where I went to school in Windsor. I would say, as I said, it was a good school, good quality teaching, caring teaching. But my experience was mixed. I did have teachers who were very negative, or some teachers, I would say maybe one or two. I wouldn't generalize. I would say one or two teachers who were very negative towards me as a black child. At the time, when I started at the school, probably I would think about 900 kids at the school. I was the only black child there. And the attitude of one or two teachers was very negative, to the point of being actually distinctly racist in some of the things that were said. But then on the other hand, I had other teachers who were very helpful. And once they recognize your potential, academic potential, it didn't seem to matter to them whether you were black or white or whatever you were. Their passion was to educate people. And I had one teacher, one teacher in particular who I can speak about, a science teacher who to this day, I look back on him with utter respect and admiration, because were it not for him, then what I'm doing now possibly would not have happened, because he used to take me and teach me extra beyond what was being taught in the class, because he saw that I had the interest, I had the aptitude for the subject, so he would teach me on my own, one-to-one, beyond what the rest of the class were doing. And this was a white teacher. So, there is goodness there, and it's for us to take the positive side. I mean, I could dwell so much on the negative experiences, but my preference, my general character is to look at the positive side and to say, well, what can we get? What have we been able to get from the good that exists. And there are a number of teachers who are similarly interested in my progress. And that is what I recognize looking back. Not only that, but not only did my teachers those teachers in particular have a good positive influence on me, but family. That is so important, to have family support, parents who recognize the importance of education. And that is something that was drilled in me from day one when I came here. You have to get a good education. You have to get good qualifications. You cannot afford to be the same standard as your white counterpart, because you are competing with them. They already have the privilege that's given to them beyond what you will have. So in order to compete with them, you cannot do so on equal terms. You have to be better. That's what was drilled into me. And even to this day, that was what my father told me. Even to this day, I still hold on to that. I cannot expect to compete on equal terms by being at the same level. I have to feel, it's been drilled into me so much that I actually still feel that I have to be better than my counterparts in order to be given the opportunity. Rightly or wrongly, but that's the way I feel. And that's what I always work towards. And that's the way I brought my children up. And my grandchildren will have the same sort of lessons, whether they like it or not. That's what they're going to get.
Yeah. But it's actually,
so I'm grateful for a lot of the experiences and opportunities that I've had in this country. Yeah, it hasn't all been good. There have been negative sides, but as I said, I don't dwell on that.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So, what has COVID done to you guys? What has COVID meant for you, this lockdown situation? How have you coped?
I have found it, certainly distressing from the effects that it's having, the health problems and the number of deaths and the negative aspect of it that we've seen. And also particularly the way that it has affected our own community. Very sad from that point of view. And I wish that there were things that could be done to address that particular problem, because it is clearly seen to be something that has negatively impacted on Black and Asian communities more negatively than on others, for whatever reason. I'm sure there are multiple reasons for that. But from that point of view, yes, it is very sad. But on the other aspect of it, I'm a teacher. I teach chemistry, and my primary subject is chemistry, which I teach up to A level, and I also teach physics. And of course, with schools being in lockdown from, I think, sometime in March, well, I've lost track of the time now, but it's been weeks over which I've been teaching from home. So that has been my experience. I took a little while to get used to it. I teach on a particular format, Microsoft Teams, and it took a little while to get used to that, because I'm a sort of teacher who likes to, it's a two-way communication process, and there's a lot of feedback that you get from the students just by looking at their faces to see whether or not they're understanding what you're talking about, which is you don't get, of course, when I'm teaching this way, because, of course, they can see me, but I can't see them. And it took a little while to get used to. And the nature of my subject is that I have to be able to show them things. And that has also been quite difficult. But we've muddled through, made the most of it. And the other big issue is, of course, I teach examination groups, GCSE and A-level students. And I've had to I've already gone through the process of deciding on the sort of grades that I think they will get. And that has been quite a challenge, because, of course, they're not taking the exams. All the exams have been cancelled. Excuse me. So teachers are having to make that decision, which is very, very difficult. But try and make that decision objectively and try to do it accurately as well. So that has been a challenge.
My question to you about chemistry, though, how do you teach chemistry without your Bunsen burners?
Well, I teach the theory. There's a whole host of theoretical things that you can teach. Obviously, we can't do the practicals, which is a shame, but there's a whole wealth of theoretical things, and you can teach them about the practical situations as well by explaining it to them, but it really isn't the same. It is very much a practical subject, and there's just that element of it that you just can't teach. But you do your best with trying to help them.
Well, thank you. Actually, I have to say thank you to you, because one of my subjects that I was really scared of at school was physics. Yeah. That scared me. I just couldn't get my head around it. So I have to say thank you.
Yeah, well, if you want some lessons, just call me.
Okay. You're so kind. So Marjorie, what has COVID-19 been for you?
Well, to be quite honest, I didn't know what to expect. And as I'm getting on in years, well, I'm not 40, am I?
Spring chicken.
I'm not 40. So, yeah, I was worried about how it would affect me. And I know in the last couple of years, I didn't quite get the full force of the flu, but I seem to be getting some chest infections. So I was one of those people that they would invite for the jab that I never go for, because I'm scared of that as well. Not the jab, but I'm just scared of, them injecting me with something and then I get ill after that. And so when they said that people, I was kind of like, would have been in that situation where I would want to be one of them that had to be shielded, stay at home, self-isolate or something like that. So I was praying that I didn't get it. And I was ill before it all broke out about COVID. And later on, when they started to talk about symptoms, I'm sure I had a touch of it or something very close to that. So I pray that was my experience with it, and that it wouldn't come back. Work-wise, we didn't know what would happen at work because we're kind of semi in the manufacturing, in the building industry side. And so we didn't know how it would impact on us. And at the same time, when they decided that they would pay for us to, when they decided that the companies could furlough their staff, I was hoping and praying that I'd be one of them. But it didn't happen for me. And so whilst everyone was at home, I still had to be going into work. And I didn't have the opportunity to work from home either because I wasn't set up initially. And my boss asked me to investigate what would be needed and find out go about doing it. And he didn't seem that interested because I think we had already had 2 people that work from home part-time, and they have enough problems logging into the server and things like that. And because I work in finance and the job we did, i.e. one of the things is the payroll, we couldn't afford not to have connections. So we had to be in the office. So unfortunately for me, I still had to be drugging in. And every time I do the furlough stuff, I think, wow, I would love to be paid even 80% of my salary just to stay at home and do nothing to do with work and do my own thing. So I was a bit jealous there. But apart from that, the sad side of it is obviously the impact that it's had on us. And even I don't feel great at the moment, as you know, that I've got a knee injury and I'm in a lot of pain sometimes, and I really want to go to the doctor and I'm not sure whether I can or not. And I don't want to waste their time in as much as thinking that, oh, it's not as bad. People are suffering worse than I am. So, yeah, I find it really difficult because I'm struggling sometimes. And obviously with the walking, and it gives me back pain as well. But, yeah, I'm just managing through the time. It's not good. And another thing for me is I miss my family. We like to get together. We like to be with each other. And we can't do it. And they already live far away from us. And so we would have to travel to them and we'd have to stay overnight, or they would have to do the same when they come to us, and we're not able to. So we've been doing a lot by Zoom and video calling and so on, and to see the grandchildren, but it's still not the same.
Yes.
We just want to see each other, to give each other a hug and everything like that. Yeah, and even to help our children with the homeschooling, we can't do that either.
I know. It's been very, very challenging for everyone. Very, very challenging.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk to me about like what's happening right now, our current situation with what's happening in the States, what's happening here in the UK, with the demonstrations that we've had. What are your thoughts?
Well, like everyone else, I was absolutely horrified at what I saw. I saw the full video of what that police officer did, which I saw clearly as blatant, deliberate murder in broad daylight. And that horrified me. But in some ways, it didn't surprise me, which is sad, because it is something that has been going on for a long time, where black people have died at the hands of the police under suspicious circumstances. But what was particularly shocking about this one was that the police officer or officers involved felt so brazen that they could do it in broad daylight, being filmed, and they expected to get away with it. They seem to think that they're living in an environment and in a society where they can do that sort of thing, commit the murder of a black person in broad daylight, where social media exists, where that information and that action would be played out and shown across the world because of social media, and they expected to get away with it. And in fact, were it not for the protests and so on that happened, that followed, they would have gotten away with it, because the authorities initially didn't see that any crime had been committed. All they said was, he's been sacked.
Yes.
No, he should have been in jail. Not sacked, Absolutely. He should have been in jail. They all should have been in jail. So to say that he's been sacked and then that's the end of the matter shows utter, total contempt and disrespect for black life. Because they expected to get away with it. And like I said, Absolutely. They would have away with it,
they always do.
Were it not for the protests that happened. Had people, and I was going to say had black people not, but actually it wasn't just black people. You look at the streets, look at the protests, all people, because justice is something that is part of human nature. You know, it's something that humans, as humans, we all demand. Black, white, Chinese, whatever. We all demand it. It's part of our DNA, justice. There are those who don't believe in it, obviously, who carried out the act and expected it to go unnoticed, but it is part of our DNA as human beings, and it has to be done, and it has to be seen to be done. So I think that I do have very strong feelings about that, because it is just not right that that sort of action should be taken. And we know it's been happening for a long time, not just in America, not just in the UK, but it's actually experience of black people worldwide. And don't know, to be honest, what the solution is, because it has been going on for a long time. I'm at a loss as to whether or not there is any solution, if it's possible to find a solution. And that's the despair that I have at the moment. That's the despair that I feel, that I don't see a solution, because I can't say that it's about education. How do you educate someone to tell them that if you kneel on the neck of somebody and cut off the blood supply to the brain, that you're not going to kill them? He knew that.
Or when they say,
he knows that that is what would happen. How do you educate someone that if you stop them breathing and they're saying to you, I can't breathe, and you keep doing the thing that's stopping them from breathing, that they're not going to die? He knows that. That is precisely why he did it. It was blatant, daylight murder. Nothing more, nothing less. And as far as I'm concerned, that murderer, I won't call him a police officer, that murderer should very quickly find himself on death row, the same place that a black person would have been had they committed anything similar. I'm a little bit old-fashioned. Sorry, I'm a little bit old-fashioned in the sense that, I believe in the death penalty in a situation like that. There's no ambiguity. That is clear, blatant murder. And in a situation like that, the death penalty goes, as far as I'm concerned.
No, that's understandable. I accept that one. I just find that all of them, the other officers were complicit. So, you know, you can't stand and watch something happen and don't do something about it. You know it's wrong. You would expect that they would have stepped in and said, can't do that. But they didn't. And that, I think, is really sad. And it's there for everybody to see.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. A part of me also thinks that it was premeditated, that it was planned beforehand by that police officer, because I don't know to what extent there is truth in this, but I did hear or see one of the complicit officers say that he told this guy, the murderer, that he shouldn't be doing that sort of thing. And I got the impression, I didn't see the full account of what was said, but I got the impression that he told him that before the incident actually happened. Almost as if that murderer decided on that particular day he was going to kill a black person, and that was the opportunity for him to carry out.
It's just so sad. And look at what has resulted because of that one incident.
Yes.
Now, this isn't just one incident. It's been a catalogue of incidents that have happened
over the years.
So people have just had enough. They've just had enough.
Yeah. So in this day and age, I mean, it's shocking that sort of thing happens. I mean, we say, okay, it's 2020, that sort of thing should not be happening. It's been happening for generations, and it will probably keep happening. I don't know what it will take. I cannot think that it will take education. Because anybody who needs to be educated about race these days and equality and justice, they are the sort of people who probably will never understand that in relation to other cultures and other people, particularly in relation to black people. Because the education has been there, the opportunity to learn has been there, plenty of opportunities to learn. There are many, many positive, high-achieving, contributing black people throughout the world. So anybody who fails to recognize the value and the worth of the black life is doing so out of choice. It's not about lack of education. They do so out of choice, and they pass that attitude down to their descendants. So that is the reason that I think it doesn't matter. We do whatever we can as individuals, and as a group of people we protest and whatever. You will always have those people who are unwilling and reluctant to recognize the truth, that justice is for everybody and not just for a privileged few.
And also I think it's disgraceful that they've got a leader who wasn't able to come out and condemn what had happened and call it for what it is. And if the table had been turned and that was a black person, he would be there already giving the death sentence. And I think that is disgraceful, and he's let the people down, and he's got to go.
Yeah.
But do you know
he was very quick. Sorry. He was very quick to condemn the protesters.
Yeah.
Okay, the protesters. Very quick. Yeah, the looting and the rioting was wrong. He was very quick to condemn that. But I actually haven't seen or heard any clip of him, any recording of him condemning the murderer. I've not actually seen
And you won't. But the one nice thing that you will see right in front of the White House, they've painted in yellow on the street, Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
So he has to drive down that stretch of road every day. So he doesn't have to hear it or see it, or nobody has to say anything to him. He'll see it as he drives past.
Yeah, but you see, he is one of those people that I was talking about earlier, for whom it doesn't matter how strongly or forcefully that message is driven, he and people like him will not recognize it because they are totally blinkered towards that.
Absolutely.
They have an attitude towards black people, and I will come out and say, I believe Trump is a racist. It's clear. In my opinion, he is a racist. He may have black people within his organization, but they are only there for him to use. He's blatant, out and out racist. So people like him are, in my opinion, incapable of being educated about proper justice for everybody. And that is the reason that I think that this problem will go on and on and on, because people like him will always exist. And it's for us as a people and as individuals to do what we can to improve our own opportunities and try to address that issue from our position. But we should not expect, and certainly I do not expect, a problem of racism to be eradicated to the extent that it should. I don't expect it to happen. I'm not holding my breath for it to happen.
So I'm just saying that I have a feeling that George's death is not going to be in vain, because it's a different kind of protest this time. And even though I know there is some rioting, I think black people felt, and not just black people, but most nations all over the world feel that something's got to be done. And I'm sure they'll work towards getting things done. And they're going to press the people in authority more so now for the injustice to come to an end. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is, our own Prime Minister, I haven't heard him come out and condemn the murder. You know, he is almost complicit with Trump.
Well, he won't, because he's a friend of Trump.
Well, friend or not, justice is justice. You believe in it or you don't. I have not heard him come out and condemn the murderer. No, and that is sad. And that's reason for...
If you had the opportunity right now to have a conversation with Boris Johnson or the powers that be, what would you be saying to them right now? That we could hear, that we are capable of hearing. That we're capable of hearing.
Yeah, exactly. I know what I'd say to him, but he probably wouldn't be broadcastable.
Oh dear.
I don't know, to be honest, because I'm a strong believer in education, not just academic education, but education for life as a principle within life, so that people understand about justice and learn about each other's cultures. But I'm not sure that is the solution. I'm not sure that is the answer. I'm not even sure that having teaching within our schools about not just slavery or whatever, which is taught, but from a negative point of view, and from a black person as the victim point of view, not from the Europeans as the perpetrators and the beneficiaries point of view. But even if we were to teach about the contribution, the positive, significantly positive contributions that many people from the Caribbean and from Asian countries, etc., and from Africa have made, not only by their presence in this country, but also from the exploitation of those countries by this country and the extent to which the wealth of this country is dependent on what those countries have given in many different ways. Even if that was taught, there are still people who have this entrenched negative attitude towards people because of the color of their skin. They will still exist. They will still be there. I think there are some things that education cannot solve. It cannot solve entrenched prejudice, sort of prejudicial attitudes. It cannot solve that. So I really don't know what I would say to him. that is broadcastable. Because I don't think that he is lacking in education. He's a well-educated person. Probably things that I would like to address would be more to do with local government. When I look around Slough, I do not see much support for anything that the Afro-Caribbean community would want. When I look around Slough, I see community centres. I see other establishments set up for other communities, multiples of them. I see schools. I see free schools. I see independent schools. I see all sorts of support systems for other communities. I don't see one thing, not even one community centre. I know of a particular organisation, a church, that's been trying to get their own premises for years, and they've been denied that year after year after year. Then you look around and see how many mosques, how many temples, how many good warriors, etc., around Slough. And you look around and you see how many Muslim schools there are in Slough and Sikh schools in Slough, primary and secondary. That is something that I think our local authority needs to address. They need to look at themselves very seriously and look and see that there is prejudice there for whatever reason. It can't be because we don't want it. Okay.
So in my next round of interviews,
community wants this.
Yeah.
Sorry?
So in my next round of interviews, if we look at doing something for Black History Month, if I could get some of our local representatives from whether it's the council or our MP or, the powers that be around the table, let's see if we can have a conversation with them about what are they going to do? What do we need to do as a community of Black people? What do we need to do to enable them to help us to make this happen? What do we need to do? We're not asking them what they're going to do for us, but what do we need to do for them to enable this to happen for us? Because, when we think about it, my parents, your parents came here late 50s, early 60s. Now, as we know, Black people, Caribbean people, African people have been coming to the UK back in 1800 plus. Okay, so we know Black people haven't been coming to the UK since World War or Windrush. They were here way before that. But here in Slough, no one can actually give you a location where there is anything that either represents, belongs to, has any affiliation with Black people.
Yeah.
So how do we make that happen? So let's see what we can organise for, at least for Black History Month. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I think on that respect, they do have a lot of questions to answer. They do have a lot of explaining to do, because there's a clear and blatant difference between what is provided for some communities, what is available for some communities, and what is available for others. And we seem to be being deprived. We are council taxpayers like everybody else, but we're not getting any of the benefits. We're not asking for them to give us anything.
No.
We are certainly prepared to work hard. That's the way I am. I know no other way of existing but to work hard. And we are prepared to work hard for what we want. But the opportunity has to be there. So my issue is actually more to do with local government than it is to do with national government. I mean, I was involved, I don't know if you know the history of the West Indian People's Association Saturday School. which started around about 1983, 82. I've been involved in it from 1984.
Okay.
And I was running it for many, many years. So every Saturday morning, I'd be there with other dedicated, committed people to teach children from age 4, 5, right through to GCSE. And we were getting some degree of funding, which we had to fight for from the local authority. But then it was very successful. The school was very successful.
That wasn't the local council, that was Berkshire.
Yeah, sorry, Berkshire. Yeah, when Berkshire existed. But then it was transferred to Slough when Berkshire Education Authority was abolished. It went across to Slough, and that was when the problem started.
That was it.
The funding ceased. It dried up, and nothing came in our direction. And this was a Saturday school that was based on the Orchard. Mm-hmm. The Orchard was a club that actually was dedicated to the Afro-Caribbean community. What is it now? I don't know what it is now. It certainly isn't that. So we were using it for years and years and years. We were being successful. It's almost as if people could see that we were being successful and black kids were benefiting and they were doing well. Therefore, you couldn't have that. The money dried up. So it stopped. And that, along with other issues, are concerns that I have. As I said, I'm happy. I'm prepared to work hard to help our kids. I believe very strongly. I'm very passionate about education, particularly science education. I teach maths as well. And I really want to see all kids do well naturally, but the extent to which our own kids are not doing as well as others is a concern for me. And this is something that's been going on for years and years and years. That was the whole reason the Saturday school started to address this issue. And the issue was being addressed. It was being addressed because kids were doing well. And then the funding stopped.
Wow. Okay, so we've got some topics for another program.
Yeah.
That would be really, really good. Thank you so much,
Okay,
guys.
thank you. You're welcome.
You're welcome, Martin.
For being just being honest and just being able to share. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome. Yeah.
It's a wrap.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Rochdale.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Right, you're welcome.